Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another City and Guilds math lesson. I am Tamika Lodge Fenton, and I will be guiding you through today on percentages. So let's begin. So we have percentages, so we're still on the unit of percentages. The aim of this unit is to develop skills in calculating and using percentages. At the end of this session, students will be able to calculate percentages in a wide range of everyday contexts. There are a few points that we'll go through before we start any calculation, however. What is a percentage? A percentage is a ratio of a number to 100. The symbol that we all should know by now is, as seen on the screen, is used to indicate a percentage. That is a backslash with the 2 zeros there. The word percent means per cent, per 100. So when we say 6%, it really means 6 out of 100. All right. So here we are again. There are 3 ways in which we can represent a percentage. You can represent a percentage as a fraction, as a decimal, and also as customary using the percentage sign. Now, what does a percentage really means? It means, as the word percent comes from the Latin term per centium, meaning per 100. So when we look at 20%, we're really looking at 20 things out of 100 things. So it's 20 hundredths. And if you're looking at 50%, it's really 50 out of 100. Now, if we practice to call decimals as how we should, you'd realize that this makes a lot of sense. So 50 hundredths would really be 0.5, right? Or 0.50. All right, great. All right, let us look at some key percentages as fractions. So here we have a number line and we're comparing fractions to percentages. You have 0 to 1. As you know, 100% is reflected as 1 as it pertains to a whole. So let us look at some of the key fractions. 1/8 is 12.5%. A quarter, 25%. A half, 50%. 3/4, 75%. And of course, we said it before, 1 is 100%. So when we look at percentages and amount, how do you find the percentages of a particular amount? It's very simple. To calculate the percentage of an amount, you write the percentage as a fraction, that means it's out of 100, and you multiply it by the amount. So for instance, we have 20% of 1,200. It's pretty much 20 hundredths multiplied by 1,200. And we simplify where possible. So we have 100 into 100 goes 1 time. 1,200 divided by 100 gives us 12. We multiply the numerators. 20 multiplied by 12 gives us 240. So what we're saying, 20% of 1,200 is 240. We may also simplify at first, so we can do it another way. So we have 20% is the same as 20 hundredths, which is 20 out of 100, which we can factorize 10 out of the numerator, which is 20, giving you 2, and 10 out of the denominator, 100, giving you 10. So now the fraction that you had before, 20 hundredths, now become 2 tenths. What do we do here? We can now multiply by 2 tenths. And of course, as I've always said, simplify where possible. So we have 2 tenths multiplied by 1,200. In this instance, I multiplied straight across. So 2 multiplied by 1,200 gives me 2,400. And then we would divide by 10, giving us 240. Come back to the same thing that we just worked out previously. 20% of 1,200 is 240. Let us look at writing a percent as a decimal. change a percent to a fraction first. So for instance, here in this example, we're starting with 30%. As a fraction, remember, percentage has to do with out of 100. So to write 30% as a fraction is 30 out of 100. Then we divide the numerator, which is the top value, by the denominator, which is the bottom value. So 30 divided by 100 gives us the decimal 0.3, or what we say is 3/10 or 30 hundredths. And then after we would have changed the percent to a decimal, it's pretty easy from there, we just multiply. So let us look at an example. 30% of $60.50. So remember, we're changing the 30 hundredths to a decimal, which would be 0.3 or 30 hundredths or 3/10. You multiply 0.3 by $60.50, giving you $18.15. So $18.15 is actually 30% of $60.50. Percent and fractions. To write a fraction as a percent, obtain an equivalent fraction whose denominator is 100. Now you'll realize when you're doing this, you may have to go to above 100 sometimes for certain fractional representation, but you will get that sorted out in time. So once it's a multiple of 10, you're good. So we're here now and we're looking at 2/5. So we want to get the denominator to 100. 5 multiplied by 20 gets you to 100. How would we know that? We would divide 5 into 100, giving us 20. And of course, by now you should know, whatever operation you would have done to the denominator, you have to do it to the numerator. So we're multiplying 2/5 by 20 throughout, giving you 40 hundredths. And you can see 40 hundredths is 40%. So now you can figure out 40% of 10.5, which we could also say 2/5 of 10.5, and let's work it down from the fraction there. So 2/5 of 10.5, we will change the mixed number, which is 10.5, to an improper fraction. Now remember how we do that? We multiply the whole, which is the 10, the whole part, by the denominator. 10 multiplied by 2 gives us 20, plus 1 gives us 21 halves. So 10.5 changed to an improper fraction is 21 halves. And then you'll multiply throughout again. 2 multiplied by 21 gives me 42, and 5 multiplied by 2 gives me 10. So now I have another improper fraction, which is 42/10. What do I do here? I change it back. I convert it to a mixed number. So 10 into 42 goes 4 times, and I have a fractional part of 2/10 left. 2/10 is not in its simplest form. If I factorize 2/10 by 2, I would get 1/5. Therefore, 40% of 10.5 is 4 1/5. And think about it. 50% of 10 is 5, and 50% of a half is a quarter. So if you can pretty much gauge if you are on the right track. 40% is less than 50, so you don't expect to get 5. All right, that's that. Next thing. Another way to write fraction as a percent is to convert the fraction to a decimal and then to a percent. All right, so we have 2/5 here, and 2/5 from the previous working out is worked well. Not from the previous, let's work it out from here. 2 divided by 5 will give me 0.4, or 4/10 or 40 hundredths. 40 hundredths, by now you should realize that's 40 out of 100 parts, which is the same as 40%. So 2/5 can be rewritten as 40%. All right, and now we are asked to find 2/5 of $240. So we know we want to find 40% of $240. How do we do that? 40% can be rewritten as 0.4 or 4/10, or you can say it is 40 hundredths right there. Multiply it by 240, we get 96. Therefore, 2/5 of 240 is $96. All right, here we are. The method is also used when converting mixed numbers to percentages. So the same thing applies. We have the mixed number 2 and 2/5. By now, you should know that 2 as the whole is always placed to the left of the decimal point. So your fraction, your mixed number becomes 2.4 to represent the same quantity. And 2 is greater than 1, so it's not just 100% we're looking at now. 2 in this instance is 200%. So the 2/5 is still 40%. The 2 represents 200%. So we now have 240%, which is represented by the fraction 2 and 2/5. And listen to the scenario and let's work it together. I loaned my friend $200 and he decided to repay my kindness by giving me 2 and 2/5 of the sum. Your friend is awesome. He's giving you more than what you gave him. He's giving you 240% of what you loan him. So here we go, 240 of 200. And you should expect a particular answer now. So 100% would be 200. 200%, you know, you're going to double that. So you should be on track on where your answer should be. So 240% can be rewritten as 2.4, and you multiply 2.4, 2 and 4/10 by 200, giving you $480. All right. And let's go to the next one. So it's that time of day when we look at City and Guilds exam questions. Let's just look at the first one. We will work together. So calculate 8% of $40,000. Let us do this one on the board, guys. So we have, the first thing we can do, we can definitely figure out what is 1%. So in order to figure out what is 1%, we're going to divide the total amount by 100. All right, so 100 into 100 goes 1 time, 100 into 40,000 goes 400 times. So what we're saying, 1% of 40,000 is 400. All right, so if we know what 1% is, we can definitely find out what is 8%. So 8% is what will be 400 multiplied by 8. All right, and then 8 fours, so that's going to be 3,200. So 8% is 3,200. All right, so that would be option A. Let us see if it's the same way I worked it. We actually did it a little bit different on the screen. So we have 8 out of 100 parts multiplied by 40,000, and you would simplify as best as possible. So you have 100 into 100 one time, 100 into 40,000 goes 400 times. Multiply that 400 by 8, giving you the same response, the same answer, which is 3,200. And that would be option A. All right, so let us look at the next one. In a sale, a bed originally priced at $30,000 was reduced by 20%. I hope you remember what the term reduce means. If you reduce something, you would have taken something away from it. So if it is a sale, obviously you're going to pay less for it. So the first part of it is that it was reduced by 20%. All right, so let us see what is 20%. 20% of 30,000. All right, so we're going to simplify as best as possible. 100 into 100 one time. 100 into 30,000 gives me 300. We're going to multiply our numerators. We can definitely put it over 1. So 300 multiplied by 20 gives us 6,000. And since we are dealing with money, you know, I always try to put in the dollar signs so I remember what I'm doing. So for the 20% of 30,000 is $6,000. Do we end there? No, it says it was reduced. That means I would have to take, and you can set it up anyway on your paper, I would have to take away my $6,000 from the $30,000 to get my new price. So let's do that now. So 30 take away 6 gives me 24. Now, if I went a little bit too far, you know that 0 take away, let me just erase that. 0 take away 6, you can't. So, of course, you're going to regroup, and you're going to have your one group of 10 there. 10 take away 6, 4, 2 is brought down, and you get 24. All right, so we have 24,000. That's the first reduction that was made. But they didn't end there. So 24 is not even there. So we're good. So at the end of the week, this sale price was reduced by 10%. So we're thinking about this here. This price was reduced. So 10% was reduced by 10%. So we need now to find out what is 10% of $24,000. And you pretty much doing the same thing. Simplify when possible. So we have 240 multiplied by 10, and I'm just going to write it down here, gives us 2,400. So 10% of 24,000 is 2,400. And that was a reduction. So here again, I'm just going to set it up here. We have 24,000, subtract 2,400, and we have, that would be 3 there, 10 there, 10 take away, that is 6, 1. 21,000, let's write that 2 properly, $21,600 would be the price after those 2 reductions. So remember when you're reading the question, guys, I was supposed to ask you a question. Why didn't I add the 20% and the 10%? We can't add it because there was a reduction and then another calculation. So you can't just say, okay, it's 30% of the overall cost. You have to find the 20% first, reduce it, and then find 10% of the reduced value. Hence why we end up with 21,600. All right, so as I said, I was supposed to ask you the question, but we did it anyway. So we are at 6,000 for the first reduction, and we subtracted the 6,000, giving us 24,000, and then we found 10% of that 24,000, which was 2,400, and then we subtracted that. And our final answer was 21,600. Next question. A sales representative receives 12% commission on sales. How much does she receive on sales for $5,800? What are we asked to do here? We're asked to calculate the value of 12%. Well, the value of 12% off $5,800. All right, and there are 2 ways we can do it. We can definitely start off by finding 1% of 5,800. So let's do that first. I find the 1% wave quite easy. If you like the other way, you're fine to work that way as well. So 1% of $5,800 is simply, you divide by 100 because the 5,800 represents the whole. So if I divide by the full percentage, I will get 1%. All right, 100 into 1 goes that, 58. 100 into 5,800 goes 58. So what I'm saying, if 1% is $58, I can definitely multiply by 12 to give me what 12% is. So 12% is $58 multiplied by 12%, right? By 12. And we can come over here and work it. 2 8s, 16, 2 5s, 10, and 1 11. And then 1 times 8 is 8, 1 times 5 is 5. And we add. Now I place the 0 here because I'm multiplying by another place. So I'm multiplying by 10 really. So 6 plus 0 is 6, 1 and that is 9, 1 and 8 is 9, and 5 and 1 is 6. So 12% is actually $696. So the person would have sold $5,800 worth of stuff. That would have been their sales for that period. And their commission would have been 12%. So 12% of what they sold would be $696. I hope this is US because this is not a lot of money. All right. So let's look at what we have here on screen. So I did it a different way there. So we converted the 1200ths to a decimal by dividing 12 by 100, giving us 0 and 1.12 or 1200ths. We multiplied by 1200ths and we got the same answer. $696 would have been the 12% of the 5,800. Well, guys, I thank you so very much for staying with us. I hope you understand a little bit more about percentages and working out percentages that are given as fractions, that are given as decimals, and of course the old-fashioned percentage way. You can also, there's 2 ways I showed you today. You can look at percentage from 1% and then multiply the given percentages, or you can work with the percent as in out of 100. So if you're working with 10%, it's 10 out of 100, 15%, 15 out of 100. And then you multiply it by the amount and you pretty much will get your value for that percentage.